right, what's going on, everyone? It's Chris here, your host at Hertastic Reviews. This is the show where we talk about Blu-ray movies, Blu-ray reviews, haul videos, and most importantly, where I am quarantined now. One of my friends unfortunately contracted the COVID-19 virus. He's all safe and sound in recovering. I was exposed. Luckily, I tested negative on it, but, I am under quarantine for a decent amount of time right now. From watching and binging movies and playing FIFA, I kind of thought I wanted to make a bunch of videos in this little mini-series, kind of like my quarantine mini-series, where I'm going to want to just talk about a bunch of franchises and movies that I've been binging, and I think you should really binge during this time too. And I figured this is the perfect time to talk about Godzilla. I think most people who watch this channel know I'm obsessed with the big guy. So I thought today, this is the time to finally talk about Godzilla. Now, I have not watched every single one. I'm in the middle, I'm at the end of the Heisei, about to start the Millennium series, and I'm pretty excited. So I figured up until that point, I'll just talk about everything I've watched so far to get people excited to watch these movies. Also because the Godzilla box set from Criterion, which I actually have here, recently just came out. So it's this is the perfect time to get into it, since it's almost a year anniversary since this thing came out. Now, I am obsessed with this guy. This is a set by Criterion. This is by number 1000. This is a big deal. And I just want to go through at least the first 15 here, and then maybe a few of the Heisei series films that I've seen too. Kind of give you a review on each one, so you have an idea of what movies to explore. If you're also new to this channel, you should really consider hitting the subscribe button, because there's a lot of great content that's on here, a lot of cringe for you to laugh at. And we have some good guests. If you want to get into some of the more stuff, we also have the podcast channel Inside the Sequel, which is the podcast where I talk about sequel movies don't get enough love. If you love Nathan Jones, which you can watch one of his videos here, he was on one where we talked about Shrek 2, so if that's something you're in the mood for, it's definitely available to you. But let's get into Godzilla. So Godzilla came out in 1954, directed by Ishiro Honda, and it was definitely a response to the atomic bomb dropping, and it is so depressing and creepy all at once. It's a terrifying movie if you really think about it. It was starring the guy from Seven Samurai, from Ikiru, Takashi Shimura. He stars in this movie as director Yamane, and I actually love his character. But the movie takes place in 1954 Tokyo, and Godzilla has come, and this is how it looks when you get the synopsis and you want to read the digital notes on it. It's a gorgeous release. But Godzilla has come to terrorize a small seaside area of Tokyo, or Japan, and everyone wants to see what this Godzilla creature is all about. And honestly, it starts causing destruction, and it looks gorgeous how they depict Godzilla in this movie. It's just this monstrosity that's terrorizing everything for no good reason other than to punish Japanese people. And it's basically it's obviously a reference to the atomic bomb, because that's how Godzilla came to be, and they talk about that. And when Godzilla is finally shown in pitch black and white, and as big as he is, with the great score that's in this movie, you kind of get that dun 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 dun. That is amazing. And then when he shows up to start destroying the city, it's just so intense and it's scary. Godzilla kills lots of people. He destroys an entire train track with people on there, and it shows the people that are on there, and then they instantly just die like that. And it's just such a depressing, cold movie, but it's so impactful. I love Godzilla. It's one of the best movies ever made, and you can get it individual if you want from Criterion as well, but I recommend just getting this box set right here. And I think Godzilla accomplished what it set out to do. It stands out as one of the best sci-fi movies of all time as far as I'm concerned. But other than that, Godzilla is eventually killed at the end of the movie by Dr. Yamane's daughter's boyfriend, who's also a scientist, who develops a weapon that kills, it's an oxygen to killing bomb. Basically, they throw it underwater where Godzilla is, and he sacrifices himself to kill Godzilla and save everyone, because he doesn't want... It's a cautionary tale where he doesn't want this weapon to get into the wrong hands and kill people. And that's a theme throughout the entire Godzilla franchise, where it's the destruction that men can make, they have to make this decision to like destroy it because they don't want the atomic bomb to happen how it did for them. So really powerful stuff, and I recommend Godzilla. You should definitely just watch it in general. And I really think it will convince you should watch more of these movies because the character of Godzilla is just so fascinating to me. But after 54's success, it did get an Americanized version with Raymond Burr called Godzilla King of the Monsters. I don't recommend watching it. It's not very good, I think. I think the scenes are really cheesy that he's in. My thing about Godzilla, and we'll get into it when we talk about 63, but when Americans kind of put their hands in Godzilla, I get angry. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But after the success of Godzilla, Godzilla Raids Again in 55 came out. And if you can see it here, doesn't have Hishiro Honda directing this movie. It has Motoyoshi Oda directing, who was actually his third-hand man to Akira Kurosawa, because this was Toho Films, big company at the time. They did all the Akira Kurosawa movies, like Seven Samurai, Ikiru, etc., etc. Kurosawa was amazing. I've seen a few of his movies, amazing stuff. But Honda was really close friends with Akira, and Akira thought these Godzilla movies that, Honda had written and was wanting to do these sci-fi movies thought were terrific. And they basically shared studios in a way. But Motoyoshi Oda basically was given the reins from Honda to do a sequel because Honda didn't want to do another movie. He was like, I did what I did. But Oda does a really good job of keeping the realism of Godzilla because Godzilla dies in the first movie. In the second one, jet fighter pilots discover an island where Godzilla's frozen. And they just want to get back home, and Godzilla's not going to let them. It's a new Godzilla frozen in ice, comes back to terrorize, and that's when we're introduced to Godzilla's nemesis and friend at some point called Anguirus. It's this four-legged monster with spikes on his back. He's kind of cool. But this is his first fight. Most people think it's King Kong, but it's actually Anguirus in Godzilla Raids Again. It's not well received. No, not many people like the movie, but I think it's really strong. Especially for a sequel to it. And basically, Anguirus and Godzilla duke it out. And first introduction to what the sumo wrestling type of Godzilla movies that are going to come out is what it looks like. And I love the characters in this movie. I think they work really well with the chemistry. It's like a best friend and his jet fighter pilot who's in love with this one girl who works there. It works really well. I really like the Godzilla movie for Godzilla Raids Again. And after that success, Americans get in the way with 1963's King Kong versus Godzilla. And here's the thing. When Americans get involved with Godzilla, I don't like it. It doesn't turn out well. It just feels like a little snooty, I mean, Godzilla, granted, looks amazing in this movie. This is the figure for Godzilla versus King Kong. I think he looks awesome. A little derpy, but cool. But I don't like how the Americans, they treat King Kong like he's a superior to Godzilla. I don't like that. Godzilla is shown to be like the bad guy, even though they're both bad. But Godzilla's for some reason the worst of the two. And I don't like that. I think the Americans are really kind of showing the Japanese like, we have monster movies with King Kong. We do it better than you. So King Kong should defeat Godzilla. It just feels a little racist in a way, and I just don't care for it. I think the Japanese movies are way better than the Americanized versions in general. So it just feels like the Americans are dipping their hands in it. But the reason you should get this Godzilla box set is because for the first time ever on Blu-ray, you can get the Japanese edition of King Kong vs. Godzilla with extra scenes and different scenes. I think it works a lot better. It's definitely the superior version to the American one. But so yeah, you definitely got to get this. Basically, King Kong is picked up by the Americans and Japanese embassy to defeat Godzilla on an island, and that's when the real sumo wrestling happens. And you kind of get Godzilla on on top of a thing going like this and breathing, and King Kong is just wanting to fight him. It ends up being a draw at the end, in my opinion. People say King Kong won, but that's because they're biased. But I think it was a draw, and we haven't gotten anything since. So who is the king of the monsters? I don't know. And if I'm going to just go on Americans and Godzilla being on a tangent, I'm going to do that now because 2014 by Gareth Edwards, Godzilla from Legendary Pictures is trash. I do not like that movie at all. Americans have, they have dropped the ball when it comes to Godzilla movies. They really shouldn't be making any of them. You got 98 Godzilla. Yeah, it's fun to watch, and it's not very good at all. And then the Japanese made Godzilla 2000 in response to it because Godzilla 2000 is way better. And then you get Legendary Pictures with 2014 Godzilla. That didn't do well. And that movie's trash. So then what they do in making Shin Godzilla with the creator of Neo Genesis Evangelion, and he knocks it out of the park with that movie. So it's like, then you get King of the Monsters, and that came out last year. I mean, it's fun. It's a really fun popcorn comfort blanket movie, but it's not great at all by any means. So it's like, why do they need to make these movies? I just leave it to the Japanese. Keep doing King Kong America, because that's what we're known for. But anyway, after 63, we get 64 Godzilla versus Mothra. And this is when things start to get really good. So you got that here. You got him here. This is from Godzilla versus Mothra. I love this Godzilla design. The suit is fantastic. What I like about these Godzilla movies is they usually would get different suits for each movie up until a certain point, and the suits look great. But in Godzilla versus Mothra, we get introduced to one of my favorite actors in here, Akira Takarada. Fantastic actor. He starts to show up in a bunch of these movies, and he just knocks it out of the park. He's just so good. He's one of my all-time favorites. But Honda comes back for this movie, and honestly, this is a very, very great movie. It's one of the best of the Godzilla sequels because Mothra's character is very interesting. So the movie starts off with the Mothra egg on the beach. A capitalistic CEO wants to profit off of this egg and make it an attraction. Akira Takarada and Yuriko Hoshi, they don't think this is right, so they try to save the egg, and it becomes kind of like an action spy movie. And this is when we start to see with these Godzilla movies that the human element story starts really strong and continues on. Then Godzilla shows up 30 minutes into the movie, and then from there it's a tie-in of both. But the human stories are actually really good. And in this one, they discover that the egg is being taken care of by two mini people, these two girls, and they sing to Mothra, and it becomes iconic throughout the entire franchise. And they, the Mothra eggs hatch, and it's actually two like Mothra, like caterpillars, and they end up defeating Godzilla. Godzilla's a bad guy still, and gets defeated by like this little Mothra, like little caterpillar, just basically doing a Caterpie string shot, and it's awesome. And the bad CEO gets defeated, and it's just a really good movie. It sounds weird saying it and explaining it, but it really is a great movie. And then in 65, or excuse me, no, this came out the same year. 64. Godzilla, Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. And this is like King Kong vs. Godzilla I don't care for at all, except the Japanese version. And then I don't care for Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, because it's made the same year. The same suit is used from Mothra. It's starting to look torn up. Ghidorah doesn't show up too much later in the movie, and it feels out of place. And it's mostly just an espionage spy thriller movie. And even then, it doesn't feel super great. It doesn't feel that strong. It has Akira Takarada as well. Oh no, excuse me. It doesn't have him. I'm surprised. But Honda does come back for this one. And I don't know, when Honda makes these sequels, they're kind of like trying to push a message of sorts, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the score is always going to be great. That's the thing. The score is always going to be great with every single one of these movies. The acting is going to be pretty sweet. But with this one, I don't know. Ghidorah doesn't work as a monster, and you get Rodan, and Rodan's bad in this movie too. But then you get them teaming up to defeat Ghidorah, and Ghidorah's just kind of lame. I don't care for the costume that much. I mean, the noise is kind of annoying. But I don't know. Ghidorah, King of the Monsters, or Three-Headed Monster, just does not work very well. But yeah, other than that, it's another espionage spy thriller, and it's a lot more action. And it gets the first movie with blood, I believe. It doesn't work for me. Same goes for the next movie, 65's Invasion of the Astro Monster, which actually gets a notoriety because of this scene. So Godzilla is jumping up and doing a very popular sumo wrestling like celebration of sorts, and it pissed so many people off. And Honda wanted to make Godzilla a little bit more relatable because Godzilla's starting to become more of like an iconic good guy. But Invasion of the Astro Monsters, this one does have Akira Takarada, and it also has an American actor, which is kind of weird in setting. But they're in a spaceship and they go to a planet and they meet aliens who tell them that they can help them defeat Godzilla because Godzilla is just a nuisance at this point. So they take their word for it, and in the Astro Monster is just Ghidorah. Surprise, surprise. And the aliens are actually bad, and they take Godzilla and they want to control him to unleash it on the Japanese people. And it's just, they have like the most ridiculous alien costumes ever. And I'll put a picture right here. It's just, they look ridiculous. It's like if this is what I think like early Star Trek looks like with the alien suits. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. It's very boring in a way too, because obviously the aliens are bad, but it just gets so drawn on. And then you don't even get that much Godzilla action because he's in prison most of the movie. So yeah, and then you get Ghidorah again. So Invasion of the Astro Monster. But then again, Honda takes a leave of absence from this. He's not proud of these movies he's making. So it goes down to young up-and-coming director who is a big fan of, we're a big fan of him on this channel. But it's Jun Fukuda. But he makes, I think, the best Godzilla sequel, in my opinion. And that's Ibira, Horrors of the Deep. So Ibira, Horrors of the Deep came out in 1966. And it is such a fun movie. It has Akira Takarada again. And the movie starts with basically Ibira's a giant lobster monster, and he is destroying these boat ships or like these fishing boats. And the character's brother is lost, and he wants to find him. If I can remember his name, Dio. Yeah, he wants to find his brother, so he steals a ship, Akira Takarada's, and a couple other guys with him, and they get lost in sea, and they make it to an island, and Ibira is basically ruining everything. And there's like a military group that is on this island looking for Godzilla and trying to defeat the lobster monster. They find Godzilla sleeping in a cave, and I don't know, the music is just awesome. There's a dance number in the beginning with a bunch of teenage Japanese people, and it's awesome. And they're doing like whoever can dance the longest without stopping wins like this challenge. It's ridiculous and it's awesome. But the costumes look great. Ibira looks awesome. I love like the slow-mo shots of coming from underneath to shoot it to make it look bigger than it really is. And Godzilla is really fun in this movie too. They play like beach volleyball with a rock while they're fighting, and it's just such a good movie. And you feel the intensity of the military on like their presence in the movie, trying to find them is really good. I just really like this movie a lot. It's just so fun. It's like the perfect summer blockbuster. It's like, yeah, Jaws is good, but it's like Ibira, Horrors of the Deep, I think is a way better movie than Jaws. I'm going to say that here. I just think it's a better summer movie. But moving on from that, because Jun Fukuda, he got less of a budget, and I think he did a better movie than Honda did. And that's why he got basically the Golden Gate keys from Toho Studios to make more of these Godzilla movies because it was so successful, and he did such a good job, and he was cheap. But then he makes the controversial Son of Godzilla a year later. And here's the thing. Son of Godzilla gets such a bad rap, but I loved Son of Godzilla. I think it is one of the better Godzilla movies, and it gets trashed on because Manila, the baby Godzilla, they think is so lame. I think it's a kind of good story. It's a movie to show your kids, and it's for adults entertaining as well. Godzilla looks really bad. It's not a good Godzilla costume at all. But by this time, Godzilla is becoming more of an iconic good guy, and he has a theme song where he's walking and he goes boing, boing, boing. Like it's so fun. Like we're growing with this monster character, and I love it. And Son of Godzilla, I think, is really good because you get Goro Maki, played by Akira Kubo, who we actually get to see in another installment later on. And I think he does a really good job. He wears like this yellow like jacket, and he's with a group of scientists on this island, basically becoming the Monster Island eventually. And they keep getting interrupted by giant ant monsters, and they're trying to control the weather patterns of the island because they want to control the weather patterns to save humanity. So they can stop famines and these winter storms and tsunamis and such. And it's really noble, and you feel really great about this character story. And you get to see the female lead in the movie and Goro get to interact with Manila, the son of Godzilla, and like he's trying to learn from Godzilla and like how to do things. And Godzilla as a parent really isn't the best. Like he's kind of a bully to him at times, and just because he can't breathe his atomic breath, and it's cute and it's fun. But then you find out that there's Kamaga, which is like this giant spider monster that ends up becoming the bad guy. And then Mothra comes to save everyone. It's just like chef's kiss. It just like has a little bit of everything you like in this movie. And Jun Fukada, back-to-back movies, does a really great job in my opinion. Granted, most people didn't like Son of Godzilla. I think it's one of the better, even though people say it's one of the worst. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. Because then in 68, Honda comes back because he's just like, I'm done with this Godzilla stuff. I don't like what Toho's doing. And he just makes Destroy All Monsters in 68. And this is declared basically the last Godzilla movie. Little do you know, it was just beginning. So he's brought back, and it basically feels like an Avengers movie. He brings like everyone in for this movie. Like he brings Akira Kubo in it. And from Son of Godzilla, he's back in this movie. And it just doesn't work. You get a bunch of monsters that we hadn't seen before, but you also get like Rodan, Mothra's back, Godzilla, Ghidorah's the bad guy, obviously, and they're all like ganging up and fighting each other, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, and Garrus gets dropped on from I think it's Rodan who picks him up and drops him on Ghidorah. That's pretty fun. But it's just not a movie that works really well. The human story is barely there. Basically, humanity's just trying to get rid of all these monsters by letting them all duke it out, but they invade like because they're attacking all parts of the world, so that's why they have to destroy all monsters with Monster Island. It just doesn't work. Honda, I get what he was trying to do, but it just didn't work for me. But the movie that does work is his next movie. He decides to drop the grumpy director act. And I am granted, like, well, look at how far Godzilla's come from 54 already. And just talking about it, the image of Godzilla has completely changed. He's not scary anymore. He decides to embrace this by making a child-friendly movie, All Monsters Attack, in 1969. So All Monsters Attack I really like because it's definitely for kids. It's about a little boy who his parents are always working, so he doesn't get to hang out with them. He hangs out with this old guy, and he's getting bullied in school. And by this time, Godzilla in the movies is like, I guess like an icon now, because he's like, knows about Monster Island. He loves the Godzilla character, and he wants to hang out with them. But he starts to dream about going to Monster Island and hanging out with Manila, Godzilla's son, and like learn about courage. But Manila has a bully, a monster bully, that's attacking him, and Godzilla's not helping him. Same thing as like the little boy. He just has a bully, and no one's helping him with that. But then in reality, there's two robbers who kidnap him. And he has to face these kidnappers and his school bully while also helping Manila destroy his monster. And it's such a sweet, really entertaining movie. It feels like such a Saturday morning movie, and I love it. Again, this is another movie that gets trashed. I don't know why. I really don't. I think this is a really, really strong sequel to this franchise. But then after you move from there, you get a new director. You know, Honda's like, I want to get away. Honda basically is like in and out of this relationship, which I don't blame him. I really don't. But we get a really interesting entry here. Directed by Yoshimitsu Banno, which is his only entry in this movie. It's Godzilla vs. Hedorah in 1971. Let's see if I can put it up there. Hedorah is such an interesting character. Hedorah is the antagonist created by human pollution. And it's such a... The concept of the monster of Hedorah is so interesting. And it starts off so strong because it is like a psychedelic trip. Like, it's the 70s. Banno wants to kind of show, like, drugs are bad and, like, pollution is bad. There's long stills of, like lakeshore pollution and Hedorah terrorizing everything and growing bigger and bigger because of this. And it sounds really cheesy. In some points it is, but it's kind of early. Like, it's this idea of this kind of monster, this radioactive waste monster, I think is one of the first to depict this. And it works so well because Godzilla kicks Hedorah's ass early on, but Hedorah is so freaky. It's like this big sludge monster, but it has beaming red eyes. And it's terrifying, and it works really well. And Godzilla has to fight Hedorah twice, which you don't really see in these movies as much. But Hedorah, he fights a second time. And Hedorah, honestly, I think kicks Godzilla's ass for the most part. Godzilla needs military aid in this movie. This is where Godzilla's depicted in like blowing himself, and like he's like curled up like this. And he starts like blowing himself away to like catch up to Hedorah, because Hedorah can like fly like a saucer, but also like stands up too. The ending is so weird. Hedorah will not die, which I guess is saying pollution is like such a hard thing to get rid of too. So maybe food for thought there. But Bono does an okay job. I'm not a crazy fan of Hedorah, but I'm definitely like a champion of it because it's such a weird movie. And it has a lot of people dying in it too because of the pollution. But then we move on. In 1972, Jun Fukuda is back, and it's in Godzilla vs. Gigan. And this is a fun one because Gigan kicks ass. Gigan is an alien monster, obviously. And the important thing about this movie, it's the first introduction to 2v2 sumo wrestling fighting. So Jun comes and changes the game again, and Godzilla is basically immortalized because he has a theme park in this movie, and the CEO of the theme park is not a good guy. They're actually like controlled like aliens, I believe, and they get obviously Ghidorah to help out again, and Ghidorah is teamed up with this alien monster called Gigan, which has like razor claws, and Anguirus shows up and helps Godzilla, and they actually talk in this movie, which is kind of funny. I like it. It's stupid and fun. And basically the humans that are here to help are like trying to destroy the CEO and his company of this Godzilla theme park because they're bad. They're aliens. And you, like I said, you get the fighting between the two 2v2s, and it looks like Gigan and Ghidorah are actually going to win for most of the time because Godzilla gets his ass kicked most of this movie, and I love that. And it looks like Anguirus is going to die at one point, but then Godzilla musters up the courage and comes to win. It's a really solid movie. I think Gigan looks cooler than what he actually is, but that's fine. Like, I'm fine with that. And then finally in 1973, Jun Fukuda kicks off, like, I think this is his best movie since Ibira, because I love this movie. That's Godzilla vs. Megalon. And this movie is fucking crazy. So you have these underwater alien people called Cetopians. And they're how do I put this? They're so they're underwater dwellers who hate landwalkers, us people. So they have Megalon. They summon him to basically take back the sea, like the surface, and make it part of Cetopia again. And the Godzilla character, it has to have help again. But the human characters in this movie they're three scientist brothers, and they create this one character called Jet Jaguar. And Jet Jaguar is like a mix of Ultraman Q and like Power Rangers put into one. It's such a badass cyborg robot, and it's humanoid, and it helps Godzilla. It doesn't talk or anything. It's just so cool. Megalon's like this big beetle type. It's so weird. But they're after the plans for the Jet Jaguar because they want to control it. And the Cetopians, they're like big beetles, and so is Megalon. But Megalon gets help from Gigan from the last movie, obviously. But I love the choreographed fighting in this movie. It's so good. It is so good. This is like top tier Godzilla right here. I don't know. This movie just works really well. It's a good message. And honestly, the movie goes by so quick. But by this time, the budget starts to decrease significantly. And you'll see that with these later movies. So this is 1973. And then Jun Fukuda comes back in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla in 1974. Mechagodzilla in pop culture is so popular, and it's an okay movie. I'm not crazy about it because in the last couple ones with Jun doing different type of monsters, like the human story is the important part, right? Because that's what we take most of the movie on, and then we get the big baddie and Godzilla fighting after. But like in Godzilla vs. Gigan, it's like a really low budget movie with new young actors, and it's like an investigation movie because the young reporter is like investigating, and he discovers like the bad guys are like beetles. Like that's insane. And then in Megalon, it's like a small little contained group of people, brothers, like that works. And in this movie, there's just so many different characters that I don't even know or care about, which is a problem because they suck up so much more of the time. But Mechagodzilla is a creation of like aliens who've been observing this entire time Godzilla's win and loss records against these monsters. So they create the ultimate Godzilla that can kick Godzilla's ass. But the people in this movie decide to follow like an ancient legend for this monster called King Caesar. And it's like this big lion type monster that's like dormant the entire time. And they have to sing to it to wake it up because Mechagodzilla shows up looking exactly like Godzilla when Anguirus is around, and poor Anguirus almost dies, and I feel so bad. But Mechagodzilla's theme song in this movie is awesome. It's just so cool. And when Mechagodzilla shows up to fight Godzilla the first time, Godzilla gets his ass handed to him. It's just like way too much. Like it's really dark. It's a really dark scene, and Godzilla basically gets like a Rocky moment where he starts to like learn and train and how to beat the Mechagodzilla. And the aliens are so proud of their creation that they're doing nothing but destroying everything. And then Godzilla comes back with King Caesar to defeat Mechagodzilla. And it's a close call, but Godzilla wins at the end. And then in 1975, you get Terror of Mechagodzilla with Honda bringing the Showa era to an end. Not a big fan of 75's Terror of Mechagodzilla. The reason being, Mechagodzilla coming right back in the next movie is like the main antagonist. It's pretty ballsy, but it doesn't feel too good. It feels like such a popularity contest, you know? Like, where's Ibira coming back, you know? Geraint Gigan comes back to back, but he's not like the main bad guy or anything. He's the sidekick at that point. But Terror of Mechagodzilla really does flash back to the first Mechagodzilla movie, and they basically rebuild it. And the guy who's helping the aliens rebuild the Mechagodzilla has like a grudge against the human race, and he's like controlling this underwater alien monster to get revenge on people. It's really dark, and it's like, why are you killing humans? He gets a change of heart eventually because of his daughter, but those two monsters team up again, and Godzilla has to defeat both of them. He gets his ass kicked, but he comes back. Godzilla's really cute in this movie. Like, he looks a lot more adorable and bug-eyed. But Terror Mechagodzilla, it's a rough ending from Honda. But I mean, from what all he gave, like, you gotta respect it. I mean, these are 15 movies in here, and he directs such a handful of them. Now, granted, I think Jun Fukada does such a great job of taking the mantle and running with it and creating such interesting and very original ideas and working on a small scale budget. And Honda, I mean, you just have to appreciate the level of detail he puts into his movies and the messages he really does try to drive in. Because Mechagodzilla is obviously a cautionary on like the like material and like the industry of manufacturing. He's just really against like all that steam and like the carbon monoxides in the air and stuff like that. Basically like Bono. But yeah, that's the Showa era Godzilla. You should really invest in this. It's like $124. But man, all 15 movies you get, they're really enjoyable. And when you get them, you have to watch them with the subs. Do not watch the dubs at all. They're not as good. But you get a chock full of bonus features as well. But that's the Showa era series. Now, I'm already going through the Heisei series. I'm about to end it and go through the Millennium. So I'll go through what I've been watching so far, because there's some interesting ones. Godzilla comes back in Godzilla 1984. And I love this movie. I really like this movie a lot. It starts off action-packed. So Godzilla's been gone, but he comes back, and he looks a lot different, and it's just a more modern take. It's just a breath of fresh air after you've watched the Showa era movies. Godzilla's back, and he's bad. This is a true sequel to the original. Basically, all the other Showa movies don't count anymore. Now with 84, this is the new sequel that comes after 54. So Godzilla's still a bad guy. He comes back, and the Japanese people want to figure out the best way to kill him. And the Japanese government figures out, weaponry to destroy him, but Godzilla's still not going to be stopped. But then Raymond Burr in the Americanized version that came out in 1985, just like 55 King of the Monsters, The only good part is the dialogue at the very end from Raymond Burr, where he kind of highlights Godzilla. That's the only good part. But other than that, this movie is really good, and it's really sad the way Godzilla dies, and he has like a little shriek of like terror when he dies because he falls in a volcano. Such a sad movie, but it's really good. It's really good. But then you forget all about that because Godzilla comes back in Godzilla vs. Biollante, 1989. So another 5 years later, you get another Godzilla movie. This is a hard to get Blu-ray, by the way. This is out of print to fuck. But it's really good. So Godzilla comes back to fight this plant alien monster created by a scientist who used the soul of his dead daughter who loved flowers to manipulate this plant that grows to the size of a Godzilla. And yeah, he basically has a bunch of like serums that this criminal activity is trying to take, and this Biollante does not like that at all and starts enacting revenge. Godzilla's terrorizing things. It's such an interesting movie, and the action near the end of this movie is actually some of the best. It works really good. What I noticed with these Heisei series movies is the human stories are a lot more on a grand scale, which I like, but the Godzilla stuff is so good. Like now when we get into Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, this is the first time I actually like Ghidorah. Ghidorah works a lot better in this movie, but once again, aliens from the future come back in time to basically give the technology to humans to stop Godzilla when he was a dinosaur on an island in World War II. From becoming a mutated Godzilla, basically. So they go back in time and they stop that from happening. And then they realize that the aliens, what they did was they tricked them so then they could bring Ghidorah to terrorize without a Godzilla to help the humans, basically. Really smart. But the humans come back, or the humans, they decide to fight back against the aliens and they bring back a new Godzilla. So this is a brand new Godzilla that they bring. Who's a lot meaner, and he's not like at all like on human sides, but when he sees King Ghidorah, as he's gonna try and kick ass. Eventually, they have to use Ghidorah, the humans, after they defeat the aliens, which has a cyborg that's like an Arnold Schwarzenegger ripoff. They use the cyborg Ghidorah to fight Godzilla and throw him underneath the bottom of the ocean floor, and that's how you defeat Godzilla in this movie. It's not my favorite. It's a lot more interesting. And here's the thing about these Heisei movies. The Showa Godzilla movies run from like 70 to under 90 minutes, and they work so fast. They're like an hour and 15 minutes at most. These freaking movies go to about an hour and a half to hour 45. I think Biollante is almost 2 hours long. So it's like, damn, like slow down, like speed it up. Like don't slow down, like speed it up. Let's get faster with the runtime. But speaking of runtime, Godzilla and Mothra, The Battle for Earth, that movie actually flies by, speaking of, because Mothra is in this one, and a new character called Batra. And basically, they're like yin and yang, they coexist, but they have to fight each other. But then you have Godzilla in the picture, and Mothra has to save everyone's ass, basically, at the sacrifice of its own life, almost. And Batra eventually helps in fighting Godzilla, and he's a bitch in this movie. He's such a jerk. And I kind of like that. The story element works a lot more. You start to get this one character who can like telepathically communicate with Godzilla. That's the only reoccurring character. But yeah, Godzilla and Mothra, The Battle for Earth. Actually a pretty solid movie as well. And now I am at Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. I haven't seen it yet, but I have to watch that, and then I'll watch Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. So I'm really excited to do those. This is the cover for it. Getting these are pretty expensive. They're about 11 to 12 bucks a piece, but you have to buy them individually. There's no box set for them really, unless you want the DVDs. I got lucky when I bought them all. Let's see. I have all the rest of them. I just haven't seen them yet to finish up the Millennium and Heisei series. I also have the Heisei Mothra 1, 2, and 3. If anybody's seen this, they should let me know what they thought of it. So excited to get into this after I finish up with Godzilla. The American Godzilla movies, I mean, I can go into detail on these. I don't care for Godzilla at all, but King of the Monsters is pretty fun. Actually, my favorite depiction of Ghidorah. And then you get Shin Godzilla. This is the good stuff right here. This is a crazy movie. Definitely recommend watching this one. This won the Japanese Best Picture. The reason for it is just it's so timely. It came out in 2018, I believe, and it was, I mean, it's 120 minutes long. You know, like, it definitely has a lot to say. But Shin Godzilla is definitely worth it. It's a lot more cheap than it used to be. But yeah, that's where I'm at with Godzilla, and that's what Godzilla as a franchise is. And if this is some type of franchise you want to get into, I beg you to please get into it. It is such a fun ride. These are going to be some of your favorite movies, I can tell. Just like from what I've seen and talked to other Godzilla fans, it's just, you just love the big guy. It's just, that's what it comes down to. The cheesy music, the guy in the suit, like, this guy in this suit is what makes these movies so enjoyable. There's so much effort. They use like little miniature people in like toy cars for like long shots of like big moments of action, because they can't afford to pay a bunch of people to go into military trucks. The budgets are small, but they work really well. And the action works great, and the music is perfect. So if you're a big Godzilla fan, drop a mad like down below and comment in the section below and let me know what some of your favorite Godzillas. Have you even seen a Godzilla movie? What are your thoughts of it? Are you a King Kong guy? I want to know about that. But yeah, this is episode 1 of like the quarantine binge miniseries. I think in the next episode we'll probably talk about a superhero franchise I've been itching to get back into. Not sure yet. If there's any binge movies you want me to talk about I should watch for the next video, drop a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe. I see a lot of you watching these videos and they're not hitting the subscribe button. Support a good guy who loves Godzilla. Not asking for much. But anyway, my name is Chris here at Hertastic Reviews, and remember, if you're not watching Godzilla movies, are you even a big fan of cinema? Anyway, we'll see you next time.